ground was cold and unforgiving, and the laughter around her was sharper than the rocks digging into her palms. Emma lay there, her hair matted with dust, her clothes stained with mud, and her heart heavy with humiliation. They had dragged her down, not just to the dirt beneath her knees, but into a darkness she had been trying to escape for years. And as their cruel voices echoed, one thing became clear: they didn't just want to see her fall, they wanted to make sure she never got up. Emma had never asked for attention. She was quiet, observant, the kind of girl who loved books more than gossip and kindness more than popularity. But for reasons she could never understand, she became a target. The louder she tried to defend herself, the more vicious their attacks became. It wasn't just physical, it was the daily mockery, the whispers behind her back, the digital smears that followed her home on glowing screens. And today, with the mud on her skin and the sneers on their lips, she felt like every ounce of strength had finally been stripped away. Her father's words rang faintly in her ears. Strength isn't about how hard you can hit Emma. It's about how many times you can rise when the world tries to bury you. But in that moment, lying in the dirt while the crowd jeered, she didn't feel strong. She felt broken. The group of girls stood above her, their leaders smirking with satisfaction. "Stay down, Emma. That's where you belong." They turned to walk away, convinced their cruelty had triumphed once again. But what they didn't know was that this moment, this very humiliation, was about to ignite something in Emma that had been buried too long. Emma pressed her hands into the dirt. Her body trembled, but not with defeat, with determination. She pushed herself up, her knees wobbling, her breath uneven. The laughter behind her began to falter as they turned back, confused. Emma's eyes, once timid, now burned with a quiet fire that none of them had ever seen. She wasn't just standing, she was rising. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving to herself that she was far more than the image they tried to pin on her. She dusted off her arms and lifted her chin, meeting their stares without flinching. "You can drag me down," she said softly, her voice steady despite the weight in her chest. "But you'll never keep me there." The silence that followed was heavier than any insult they could throw. For the first time, the bullies had nothing to say. From that day forward, Emma didn't allow their words to define her. She poured her pain into action. She joined the debate team, something she had always dreamed of but never dared. At first her voice shook, her confidence wavering, but with every practice, she grew steadier. She began volunteering at the community shelter, meeting people who had suffered worse and yet carried their burdens with grace. She found strength not in hiding, but in showing up as herself unapologetically. The challenges didn't disappear. The whispers still came, the mocking posts still surfaced online, and the stares in the hallways didn't suddenly vanish. But the difference was Emma's response. Where once she crumbled, now she stood tall. Where once she ran, now she faced them head on. And slowly people began to notice, not her clothes, not her silence, but her resilience. The turning point came months later during a school assembly. Emma was asked to give a speech after her debate team made it to the finals. She stood before hundreds of students, including those who once dragged her into the dirt. Her hands trembled as she gripped the podium, but when she began to speak, the auditorium hushed. She spoke not of revenge or bitterness, but of courage, kindness, and the power of standing up even when the world wants you down. "I was dragged into the dirt once," she confessed, her voice carrying across the silent room. "But the dirt is where seeds grow, and I chose to rise, to grow, and to become stronger than the voices that tried to bury me." By the time she finished, the silence was deafening. Then came the applause, slow at first, then building, until the room thundered with it. And among the clapping hands were the very people who had once laughed at her fall. Emma didn't rise to humiliate them. She rose to inspire herself, and in doing so, she inspired everyone else. Her story became more than just survival, it became a lesson. Life will always have people who try to drag you into the dirt. But in that dirt lies a choice to stay buried or to grow roots so strong that nothing can hold you down. Emma chose growth. Emma chose strength. And in rising, she silenced everyone, not with anger, not with hatred, but with undeniable courage. Each message for the audience: no matter how many times you're pushed down, you hold the power to rise. Sometimes, the dirt they drag you into is the very place where your greatest strength begins to grow.